Jeremy Loffredo is a Washington, D.C. based journalist who has worked on various independent documentaries in New York and formerly produced news programs at RT America. His work has appeared in The Gray Zone, The Defender, Rebel News, and Unlimited Hangout. Please welcome Jeremy Loffredo to the show. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
All right.
Jimmy. The
reason why we have you on is because you did some research on this story. We covered this story before. They said that Putin was kidnapping children. And, it says ICC, they put a arrest warrant based on State Department funded report that debunked itself. Now, that's from you did this report on March 31st. Mm-hmm. So obviously we just show people a little bit of the article and then we'll bring you in to clarify. On March 17th, the Prosecutor General of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, introduced an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Commissioner for Children's Rights, Maria Lvova-Belova. The warrant, which accused Putin and Lvova-Belova, that's quite a name, of conducting, that's like Chris Christie, right? Lvova-Belova. Unlawful deportation of Ukrainian children to a network of camps across the Russian Federation inspired a wave of incendiary commentary in the West. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, perhaps the most aggressive cheerleader in Congress for war with Russia, he proclaimed the ICC has an arrest warrant for Putin because he has organized the kidnapping of at least 16,000 Ukrainian children from their families and sent them to Russia. It is exactly what Hitler did.
Why don't you put them in cages the humane way?
Yes. See, why don't you separate them from their parents and put them in a cage like good American Christians? CNN's for why don't you just bomb them?
But what kidnapping and what was it? Unlawful deportation?
Yeah.
I'm getting tripped up on that. Is that the same as kidnapping?
Yeah, you would think. CNN's Fareed Zakaria. Oh, that guy got a fire in the belly for the truth. CNN's Fareed Zakaria echoed Graham, declaring the ICC warrant revealed that Putin is in fact following parts of Hitler's.
Hey, you give that back to Ukraine.
The ICC prosecutor appeared to have based his arrest warrant on research produced by Yale University's Humanitarian Research Lab. Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab work was funded and guided by the State Department's Bureau of Conflict and Stabilization Operations, an entity the Biden administration established in May 2022 to advance the prosecution. So exactly what they wanted to do. They just made up this thing, go prosecute Putin so we can have some propaganda. During the interview with CNN's Anderson Cooper, Yale's executive director, Nathaniel Raymond, he sounds like he should be on Broadway. Claimed his report provided proof that thousands of children are in hostage situation, invoking the Holocaust. Raymond asserted, we are dealing with the largest network of children camp seen in the 21st century. So let's just bring in Jeremy Loffredo. So Jeremy, you could debunk that, right? That's not that. None of that stuff is real.
None of it's real. It's a giant piece of state-funded propaganda. And Max Blumenthal and I, we use 3 different forms of journalistic, inquiry that would all independently, honestly, stand on their own, but taken together, it really just destroys this whole arrest warrant. So the first form is the report itself. There's a lot of glaring contradictions in the actual report. I'm just going to go through a couple of them. Deep in the report, it says, many of the children who have attended these camps appear to return to their families when scheduled. It also says that many of the children taken to camps are sent with the consent of their parents for an agreed duration of days or weeks and return to their parents as originally scheduled. Now, keep in mind, they're calling this a fascist kidnapping network.
What?
In their own report, they say that part that you just said, that they're
returning them.
Yeah, that they're returning them as timely and as scheduled to their parents.
What?
Yeah. And
go ahead.
And so again, in the report, it says many of these parents are low income and they wanted to take advantage of a free trip for their child. Some hope to protect their children from ongoing fighting, to send them somewhere with intact sanitation, or to ensure they had nutritious food that's unavailable where they live. Other parents simply wanted their child to go on a vacation. So this is all in the actual report that the ICC is using to say that, this is evidence of genocide and war crimes, et cetera. Just one more interesting point. The Yale report says it's hard for them to get information because many families in Ukraine do not want to publicly share their experiences from the camps because they fear they will be seen as collaborators with Russia. So they're admitting in the State Department funded report that the government in Ukraine will label literal children as collaborators for attending camp, which gets them away from the front lines. It's wild. And then that's just the first form of inquiry. Now, the second one, unlike any journalist in the mainstream media or anyone who works at Yale or the International Criminal Court, I actually visited one of these camps. I visited one of these camps outside of Moscow, about 45 miles outside of Moscow. I was in Russia back in November, just interviewing everyday Russians. And I met someone whose wife was pretty important in the Russian music scene. And they told me that I should go visit this hotel in Petrovsky. And there's a bunch of children from Donbas, and they like playing music, and they're staying in this hotel. And it was called the Donbas Express. So I went and I saw it for myself, and I interviewed people and I documented it. And, you know, these children see themselves as Russian. They speak Russian. They're singing Russian songs. They're very happy to be away from the front lines. And so that brings me to the third point. I emailed Nathaniel Raymond. I said, hey, I'd love to talk to you on the phone. I went to, you know, the Donbas Express. You're saying that this is, you know, evidence of war crimes. I'd love to tell you about my experience. And actually, he emailed me back and was like, let's hop on the phone.
Really?
And I was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised. I think he just thought maybe I had information that would, you know, further their cause.
Okay.
So I got on the phone with him and I told him that, you know, everyone seemed to be happy there. They're, you know, ethnic Russians. Their family voted to be a part of Russia. You know, I said all these things, and he was like, he said that most of the camps that he's looked at, even though he's going on CNN and, you know, conflating it with Hitler's Germany and, you know, it's kidnapping and this and that, he told me that most of the camps that they've looked at are also like the Donbas Express, are also like, he said, quote, most of the ones we looked at, primarily cultural education. I would say they're like teddy bears. So in CNN, he's saying, you know, this is Russification, genocide, war crimes. And to me, you know, in confidence on the phone, he's saying that the camps are like teddy bears.
So does he say why then how they're making it into a kidnapping?
He said that even though that these children see themselves as Russian and they speak Russian, since it's one party, one warring party, bringing children into their own country, and not, they're supposed to be bringing them into a third party country. Technically, you know, if you're following the ICC's guidelines, which Russia's not even a party to, that's what they're considering it a war crime, because they're bringing them to Russia, not, you know, somewhere else.
Isn't it also Ukraine not part of that ICC?
That's a good point. I think you're right. Yeah.
So I wish I could show this. I don't have it loaded into the program for today, but there's this bullshit pro-war, I'm sure funded by the NED or the State Department or some CIA cutout. They're called Post Left Watch. And they had tweeted out this segment I did on this. And they say, Jimmy Dore defends Putin and Russia kidnapping Ukrainian children. Dore claims that Putin's just getting kids and teenagers out of a war zone. So that's the kind of garbage that gets. So that's just straight out of, like how like they like to say, well, that's straight out of the Hitler's playbook. That's straight out of Russia. That's straight out of the CIA's playbook, right? To do that, that's just straight up propaganda. And you don't have any. And this guy.
It's a technicality, so basically they're saying it's a legal technicality that they want me to emotionally feel it's a kidnapping, and then when he asks him, he goes, "Well, they're supposed to take him to another country, so technically we got him on kidnapping."
And he said to me, I said, "Why didn't you go to any of the camps? You know, I was able to just, you know, walk in." And he said, "You know, in Russia, we're considered, you know, they think we're, you know, connected to U.S. intelligence or something. We're persona non grata." And then 5 minutes later, during the phone call, he said, "You know, the Indo-Pacific Command, which is an arm of the Pentagon, is who's giving us satellite access." So he's, you know, in one point he's saying we're not tied to intelligence. That's insane. And then, you know, 5 minutes later, he's like, you know, we're working with the Pentagon.
They all think in compartmentalization and legal technicalities. All of them. No, we're not part of that. Somebody else who's part of that sends us the information from part of that. Like,
and so did they. So of course, now did CNN have you on to talk about this?
No, of course not. No.
So did they correct any of their report? Did you try to reach out to anybody at CNN?
No, I mean, they are still going with that. I mean, right now they're saying that South Africa, if Putin were to go to South Africa, because there's an arrest warrant out, an international criminal court arrest warrant out for Putin, if he were to go to South Africa, they should arrest Putin because they're part of the ICC. So they're still using this to demonize people who want to have diplomatic relations with Russia.
Yeah, the United States has lost Africa, the continent, to Russia and China. And for good reason, because all we do is we decapitate leaders, create civil wars, and then steal natural resources. That's all we do. That's what we did in Africa. That's what we do in the Middle East. That's what we're doing in Europe. It's all we do. And
surely Russia has real crimes you could try to get them on, don't they?
Well, you'd have to find a crime that Russia has committed that Joe Biden, Barack Obama hasn't already committed, and that's impossible.
We would never we would never give the children a good time when we deport them.
You want to know who's committed more war crimes? Barack Obama, Joe Biden, or Vladimir Putin? It's a landslide. Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
When the president does it, it's not a crime.
That's right. It's not even close. So do you think those? So do you think? So you didn't reach out to CNN because you know they wouldn't respond, right?
I didn't reach out to CNN. No.
But you don't think they would respond? Of course they wouldn't.
You didn't
right?
do the fourth pillar of journalism?
No, they wouldn't respond. I mean, they had Nathaniel Raymond on, and who's the author of this report, and just watching Anderson Cooper's face while they were speaking, he said, "This is sick. This is really
my
sick."
God.
Talking about the Yale report. So they're celebrating this report as a big win against Russia.
This is why Kurt, when I tell people this stuff, they look at me like I'm crazy. I just saw Anderson Cooper get upset over this. He's outraged, and you're telling me it's not happening? That sounds like Putin propaganda. That's what regular people say to me. Regular people with kids and 2 jobs. That's what regular people, and I meet regular people all the time in comedy clubs, and that's what they say to me. They can't believe it. And I say, do you remember when you looked at me like that when I told you that the Russiagate was bullshit and I could predict what was going to happen? And then exactly what I said happened. They go, okay, you were right about that. You remember as I read about...
They said that to you? Yeah. I've never even seen somebody admit
people in comedy clubs, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I said when the Mueller report comes out, there's going to be no collusion and they're not going to prosecute Trump over it. And they didn't. They go, how did you know that? I knew. Anyway, but we have to move on. Jeremy Loffredo, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for going and doing the hard work, actually visiting the supposed kidnapping camps.
I can't believe the guy flat out told you all that.
I can't believe he flat out told you. See, because he thought maybe you were there to help him, give him some more.
I think he even said, we'd love to support you telling the story. I think he thought that this was going to be a great addition to his war crime story.
Yeah. Okay, well, everybody should check out that story over at the Gray Zone, and you could check out your Twitter is Loffredo Jeremy, and everybody check out the Gray Zone. Thanks very much for coming on. I appreciate it. Do you have a Substack or anything?
I don't, but you can watch my latest video reports on the Gray Zone YouTube and follow me at Loffredo Jeremy on Twitter.
Okay, wow. If you plan on sending your kids to college, you better get on that Substack. I don't know what you're waiting for. Watch my new comedy special, COVID Lies Are Funny, for only $10. Become a member at jimmydore.com. Hey, and we're going to be on tour in Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, L.A., Bakersfield, Baltimore, Rosemont, Chicago, and a lot more. Oh, and San Francisco being added very soon. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. See you there.